Hi, this is Jim Linnell. You know, I've been doing leatherwork for over 50 years now, and I've been teaching classes all over the place on behalf of Elk Track Studio. And of all of the classes that I've ever taught, there are none that are more important than what I'm going to show you right now. And that is, how do you get started in leatherwork? There are some basic techniques, some things that you need to learn, and if you learn those correctly, they will make a huge difference on how much enjoyment you get out of your leatherwork. So stay with me as I walk you through doing a pattern just like this, which will teach you how to use all of the most basic leatherworking tools. Then we have another tool that we use to add some more texture to the design, and that's called a veiner tool. And once again, its name kind of tells you what it does. It puts veins in the leaves. That's kind of what it does. In fact, one of the places, remember this acanthus leaf that we did? The one with the curving line? We ran the camouflage tool on one side of it, and then we beveled just opposite that. Well, I'm going to now use the veiner tool along that same line on the side that I beveled, just opposite of the camouflage. But again, because this is such a long tool, I have to angle it quite a bit so it only reaches to the edge of this leaf. I don't want to be, reaching all the way across and taking a ding out of a leaf right next to it. And once again, the angle of this tool and the length of this tool is really important. Having the spacing just nice and even, like you see here, but having them starting to rotate and have the angle change just a little bit with each one, it kind of makes it look like all of these these impressions all kind of run down into the center of that leaf. You see how we've got the camouflage on one side and we got the veiner on the other, and it looks like everything's just kind of folding into that crease in the center. And what gives that effect is the angle. Sometimes I'll see folks using this veiner tool and they'll run it like perfectly sideways coming up here. Well, that just ruins that whole flow. You see the angle of that? I have a bit of an angle between each one of these. That's what gives you that effect of having curvature to the leaf. One of the other places that we will use this tool is we'll use it around the outside edge of this scroll. And here's a little trick on that. I'm going to start right down here, like where this leaf here kind of ends, and I'm going to run it all the way around the outside. But again, the angle of this tool, all of this is really important to get the effect that we are after. So what I do is I pick a spot. My tool is kind of long, and what I will do is when I start here on this corner, I'm going to imagine that this other corner was pointed exactly toward the middle of this scroll in its tightest spot where it's kind of almost a circle there. I'm going to, and then as I work around here, I'm going to again imagine that corner's every time is pointed right at that at the center of that scroll. But I'm going to have it angled such that it fades out when it only gets about a third of the way across. I ran a pear shader tool around the inside of that scroll, and so as my veiner reaches the edge of that pear shading, it kind of fades out. So it only goes just a little ways across the scroll, but the angle of the tool, I'm still moving this tool so that it's angled in such a way that it looks like if they were long enough, they would eventually come together and connect right in the middle of that scroll. And what that does is it gives me a nice kind of a spiral look to this. It really helps to, again, create some flow to this part of the design, and it helps to give this kind of a rounded edge. It looks like it's kind of a rounded edge. Looks like all of these impressions just kind of roll over the edge of that scroll. As we come around the tighter part of this curve, obviously we have to change that angle a little bit more between each impression. And you can see I've got this tool, or my piece of leather, turned so that I can see exactly where it goes. I can see how far it was between the last impression, and make sure that I keep nice consistent spacing. And again, that's what gives this part of your design a nice look, is having consistency in the spacing. You'll also notice that my veiner impressions got a lot lighter as I come around here. They got shorter as I got toward the tip. But that's kind of where the veiner impression gets used. They make some tools. They're called stop tools, and they're usually not part of a beginner set of tools. But you know, I didn't have one either when I got started. But I learned that if you take the very corner of this veiner tool and tip it up real sharply, you can use it in the junction of like these flower petals like that, and it gives you almost the same kind of an impression. So I'll often use that tool to do that as well. And then one more thing, we've got over here a bud that kind of sticks up in between this stem and this leaf on the side, and that needs a little bit of texture. I don't like to leave that one plain, so I'm going to again use some veiner impressions. I'm going to kind of like run up each side of it using a bit of an angle to it, but I have those impressions fading out as it reaches to about the middle of that little bud. And so, and then I'll do some on the opposite side that kind of look like they all come together right there in the middle. And it just gives me a nice texture to that. So anyway, that's what the veiner tool does. It starts to add, it gives us veins in this leaf here, and it gives us kind of a veined effect around the outside of the scroll. That's its purpose.